Hello and welcome to the Freedom Experiment, episode 5. Today we have a lovely old friend of mine. He is the founder of Yoga for Every Man, and he is organiser for Yatra Australia nature retreats. His name is Christopher David, and here he is. Welcome, Christopher.
Hey, thanks, Dave.
And how are you?
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm excited to be here with you. We haven't hung out in person for a couple of years. Has it been a little over a year, I think, right? And since you've gone to India, so it's good to connect video wise.
Yeah, definitely. I just left you with a
Yeah,
toolbox full of my tools and said I'm going to India, and
that's right. Yeah,
luckily you sorted that out for me.
yeah, all good, all
Yeah,
good.
all good. Okay, so I think we'll just start with Yoga for Every Man. Like, what is the project you've got going on there, and how is it reaching men?
Mm. So, Yoga for Every Man is really, it's designed for every man.
Mm,
What I mean by that is that I'm trying to move away from exclusivity in yoga. And I know I've met quite a few blokes who have had an experience in a yoga class that they felt uncomfortable because there was a lot of other people in the room who were better than them, and or maybe they've been distracted by certain visual stimuli in the space, but uh, their experience of yoga, their introduction to yoga, has jaded them a little bit. And so I've created this program for men to kind of just remove all barriers and just have it be guys in a room. And one of the ways that we interact in that space is that we actually start each night. We start with a bit of a sharing circle. So the guys are, you know, asked or welcome invited to check in about their week, just share whatever's going on for them in their lives at the time. And sometimes we might get into discussions about yoga philosophy, yoga teachings, depending on what the energy in the room is, really. And then we do that for about 45 minutes, an hour, and then we get into a yoga asana practice. And what I've discovered through that format is that, it creates a safe space for guys to be able to just have a chat without necessarily being around a beer or it being your partner or somebody or a counselor or anything, but it's actually just a comfortable space to have some reflection. And there's no, I always say there's no unsolicited advice. So it's not like, everybody in the room is telling you how you should live your life. It's really just a space for you to open up and reflect on yourself if you want to. Nobody's pushed into it, but it's welcome in that space. And then through that, whatever comes up for each of us, the yoga practice actually provides a really great opportunity to process that, whatever those emotions, whatever those thoughts are, by coming into the body, by coming into the breath through a very simple traditional hatha yoga practice. We're able to just kind of transmute a lot of those feelings that we might be having or not know how to deal with. And so through that more meditative practice of yoga, it provides this kind of full circle experience, really, that it seems to have a very positive effect on the students.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I've experienced some of those with you, and I really found it very transformational. Just being able to be in that space with 5 or 6 other blokes and just be able to talk about where you're at.
Mm.
And I really feel you do hold that space well, and there's no judgment, and yeah, it's a really, really positive way to expand, I suppose. And yeah, I see when I started yoga, like I did find it very competitive, just sort of
Yeah.
going into that, because I suppose it's come from football and like a sort of more gym environment, and there's everyone's doing all these poses and has so much flexibility on, and I'm just there struggling to touch my toes.
Mm. Mm.
So I think I first went to yoga, and then I dropped it for a year and a half, and then I went back for a few times, and then I dropped it for another year, and then finally I was just like, I'm just
Mm.
going to go fully into it no matter what. So
Mm.
I really resonate with what you said about how hard it can be first getting into yoga, and almost like the myth of what yoga is. It's sort of maybe looked at as just like this thing to get flexible, but what we're actually doing is we're actually building connection, right? Is that how you see yoga?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one translation of the word yoga, the primary translation is the word union, which is very similar to connection. So it's the union of all aspects of our being, and the union of ourself with the larger self. And so through this idea of sharing, we start to see that some of the struggles that we're experiencing, are shared, and other people can relate in the circle. That the troubles I'm having in my relationship are actually very similar to what you might be having. Even if you're 20 years older than me, and we start to see that by connecting with each other in that space, that real relationships form. And that's really kind of my favorite part of this program, is the fact that the guys who come to this circle, end up, some of them come to Yoga for Every Man just for that part of the practice. They just come because they really benefit from this sharing, and they're like, oh, we got to do the asana again. But they do it, and they really get it. But it's kind of, for them, they feel that part, that opportunity to connect with other guys, is really valuable. And I'll just share, that, so I've recently moved up to Mackay in North Queensland. And I was running this program for about 2.5 years down northern New South Wales. And I started it, and I had, I think, 6 guys signed up. And within that initial 4 weeks program, we went through a lot. We went through a very set curriculum that I had prepared, that just moved us through embodiment, really focusing on the breath, and then slowly introducing more and more asana through that, and also really weaving in some of the key concepts from the Yoga Sutras. And after that 4 weeks, the guys were so in love with it that they said, well, we want to keep going. And so what evolved from that is every 8 weeks, we just recommitted. Everybody would recommit. And so the structure is pay up front. And in that way, you have no excuse to get out, because you're invested in it. And that way, when Wednesday rolls around, you can't say, oh yeah, maybe I'll go to yoga. It's like, no, I've already paid, I'm going to go, And that structure has seemed to really work well for guys. But those same guys came back every Wednesday night for 2.5 years. They just kept recommitting because they were getting that much out of it. And these are guys who, most of them were fathers. Most of them were towards the age of 50, and didn't necessarily have a yoga practice prior to this. Most of them did not. But whether or not they chose to take this at home into, a morning practice, or just incorporate breathing into some of the work they do, they still found ways to take what we had learned and bring it into their regular life. That it doesn't have to look like doing 20 sun salutations every morning. There's other ways that we can practice yoga on the daily.
Wow, that's super inspiring that you're giving this opportunity for blokes to look at things a bit differently and just complement their life. Essentially, that's what it does for me. It just complements life, and it really supports working or running or just whatever's happening. It just gives me that sort of foundation, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. And one quote that comes to mind now that my teacher always shared with us is that when life gets in the way of yoga, make yoga your life. And what I gathered from that is, like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend hours on the mat every day to make yoga your life. It's just a shift of perspective to see how we can find that union in the world and be more aware of our actions and the effects that they have on other people around us.
Yeah, wow. Inspiring, brother. So you've just, congratulations, you just had a new kid.
Yes.
I'd love to come up there and meet him sometime this year. How does yoga help with being a father and parenting in general? Or does it help?
Does it help? Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I've prioritized sleep over my morning practice for the last 6 months.
Fair enough.
it's been more, what's the word? It's been more interrupted, my regular practice, you know, and I've just had to get out of it what I can. I mean, for me, I really like chanting. I like uh, kirtan, and so some mornings when I'm with my son Cassius, I bring him in, and then we get on the shruti box and we chant together, and that's really lovely for us to just have that space. But yeah, I would say, you know, going back to what I was just saying a couple of minutes ago, that the practice of yoga really is about directing attention to whatever it is that we're doing, you know, being attentive in the moment. And so I am constantly faced. I have not only have my 5-month-old, but also a 6-year-old stepson, and which is just like a brutal reflection of, you know, the parts of myself that I still need to work on. You know, 24/7, I'm just, it's shown back to me where I'm lacking, you know, and where I'm spiritually inadequate, for lack of a better word, but, or not inadequate, but more just like where I don't want to give myself a false impression of that I've achieved some new level of awareness, when I'm actually just totally reactive to my son in the heat of the moment. But it provides a baseline, Dave. Like it's given me, okay, so I can see those things, I can see where I'm reactive, and now I know, you know, that I need a bit of space to sit down and just breathe and find that place in myself whatever is causing that reaction. And so I guess it's just that little bit extra awareness, and it's a journey. It's not a quick fix thing. It's not like I can just go do some pranayama and then the whole situation's remedied and I'm not going to react anymore. But it's just keep coming back and checking in with myself through the practice, whatever that is, pranayama, meditation, or asana. But it's harder to find the time. It's much harder to find the time than it had been before, you know, I had kids in my life.
I suppose that's where the karma yoga, like yoga in action, like what you're talking about, comes more to the forefront of probably where you're at, rather than hatha yoga or jnana yoga. It's more just being in that moment fully, and fully with your kid, or fully with what just needs to be done to support the family, which is what brings that union.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, in Indian culture, it's common to believe that there's, you know, 4 stages of life, and that there's this stage that I'm in right now is where I'm really meant to be of service to the world and to my family, and it's not about me as much. I mean, it's through that service that I'm growing in my practice, that my consciousness is expanding, you might say. But it's, if I'm caught thinking that, oh, I need to be doing my practice for me, you know, there's a slight imbalance there that happens when I start to, you know, it's really interesting, because there is that essential principle of, you know, self-care is what needs to happen first. You need to be able to love yourself, to care for yourself, before you can actually give to others. So I'm not suggesting that fathers or anybody, you know, put aside self-care and just find ways to be present with their kids. It's absolutely necessary for me to have that time, and I'm grateful for my partner who acknowledges that, even though sometimes begrudgingly, because she's always with the kids, but she knows that I need some space, or at least for me, that I just value that space to reflect and be in silence and solitude. And whether I'm stretching or whether I'm breathing or just sitting there, that helps me recharge a little bit. And I take that where I can get it now. I don't know if that's answering your question or not. I mean, it's because it's so new to me, I can't really say that I'm an expert in this area of being a father. I can relate to the struggle, and I'm grateful that I've had that time before fatherhood where I discovered yoga and had so many great teachers come into my life to kind of build this foundation. And so with the Yoga for Every Man project, you know, when I'm getting guys who are coming into yoga for the first time, halfway through their lives, or I don't know if that's fair to say, assuming everybody's going to live to 100, but in their 40s and 50s, then I really try to do my best to give them, to not overwhelm them, with what the potential of yoga is, and just, we start slow and sweet, and we do a lot of real focusing on the breath, and we talk about the ways that we can just very simply bring in yoga into our lives, and not trying to make it this hyper spiritual lifestyle right off the bat. If that's what people choose to do, that's great. That's kind of where I'm heading, but it doesn't mean that that you have to. You know what I mean? Like, I can choose to listen to as many podcasts on yoga philosophy as I want, but that doesn't mean that you have to.
Just keeping it accessible, and that's what it is. It is accessible at whatever way you want to live your life. Really, that's why I love yoga, and it's not some train that we all need to go on, and we all need to go to this certain place of enlightenment, or we all need to go to India and experience these things. It's just something that is a real thing that we can just use to support our life.
Yeah, that's right. And I believe very strongly in meeting the students wherever they're at, and whether they're coming from, a really ragged lifestyle, or if they're coming for physical benefits to support, like, I had a footy player come into my class the other day, and I wanted to find ways to help him. His body's built very differently than a lot of the other guys. And say the chippy who comes in and he's got a really sore back from bending down, the footy player is much bulkier, and we have a whole different scenario that we're working with, there. And I try to help each individual find something. So it's not just a blanket overall prescription. It's like, okay, cool, let's see what works for you in your body, in your practice. And that's it. I say, more than me, it's your breath that's your teacher. I'm just here to kind of offer some instructions and suggestions, but really I want each individual to tune into the breath, to where they can feel the breath guiding, initiating the movement, and also knowing where their edges are, and not trying to push themselves into some shape that their body doesn't want to go into,
Yeah, you touched on footy. I love talking about footy because I've had me maybe 20 years playing footy, and I only started getting into yoga in the last sort of year and a half of football. And my football, the way I was playing, just sort of went up dramatically because I had so much more flexibility, and I could recover from my injuries a lot quicker. And I realized that when I was playing football, when I would have a good match, it was when I was in that present moment, and I wasn't thinking about the future, and I wasn't thinking about what's going on in my life in the past. And I really found that I was experiencing something greater than myself on the football field, just through like living in that present and just concentrating on the breath. And I realized that some of my mates have been doing this their whole life and playing good games of football every week, and they were just embodying, fully focusing on that football just in every week. So I really see the connection between yoga and football, actually.
Yeah, and I think that's something that maybe some guys don't fully realize, is that mental clarity that you're describing there. And I think maybe we could do a better job in terms of marketing yoga, is the benefits of the mental clarity. And then it is a physical practice. I mean, we are moving the body, but that's not the only benefit of yoga. Its flexibility is great, but it's really by us moving through the particular sequence of asana that a teacher prescribes or leads us through, is that ideally we're able to really drop into a state where that's all that's happening for us. And so the more that we can bring our mental shitstorm down into just this moment, into the stillness, then the more we're going to be able to do that when we're off the yoga mat too. And that's great for athletes. That's great for any strength training. That's great for work. There's so many benefits to mental clarity. And there's, you know, epidemics of anxiety and depression, and especially in men, it's not spoken enough about. More and more, obviously it is, but I think the benefits of this program gives guys a space to talk about those things, but then also gives them tools to start to work with those emotions and be okay with acknowledging, okay, now I'm feeling anxious. What do I know I can do? What, you know, and it's that first step of being aware that you're anxious, that's when you know the yoga is working. You know, it's not, like I said, it's not going to give you, not necessarily going to fix it straight away, but to be able to be aware, okay, I'm anxious, cool, that's not fun right now, you know, and just instead of getting pulled right down into the anxiety, it's having that little step back, the witness state, as you know. That's what we're working to develop through yoga and meditation.
Yeah, amazing. That witness state, I suppose I want to just touch on, I wasn't able to get in that witness state in a lot of football games.
Oh,
I
okay.
could imagine a lot of football friends maybe watching this going, I was a bit of a menace on the field. I would sort of get into a few rumbles and stick up for my mates and just
Yeah.
be a bit, what's a nice way to describe it? Be pretty rough, I suppose. So it wasn't until, you know, after football, getting more into meditation, then seeing, oh,
Mm.
I didn't have to fully go into that sort of angry mode on the football field.
Mm.
And definitely those times I've faced both those things you've talked about, anxiety and depression. Just when I first started meditating, I finally understood that I don't have to live in it so much. I don't have to be involved in it, and just understanding that definitely just gave me that hope that there's something that can be accessed within me, so I don't have to live this cycle of depression or anxiety over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think, you know, with that is the realization that, right, it's a practice, you know, and you have to keep up the practice to see the benefits of it. And some people are going to have awesome experiences within their first couple, you know, goes at yoga or meditation, and they might start to get the taste of that. But we have to maintain the practice in order to keep experiencing it, and we have to trust in it as well. You know, there has to be you know, one of my teachers says, you don't come to meditation, you don't meditate when you feel like you ought to meditate. It's when you really want to meditate that's when you're going to have the true experience of it. So if you're just like, oh yeah, I've got to do my meditation now, you know, and then you sit there and it's like, all right, cool, meditation's over, I'm done, and like, oh, I feel a little bit better, but not much. Yeah, but it's like when you realize, like, oh, I actually just want to sit still for a moment. Like, that's what I'm craving, and getting in touch with what those needs are, you know, what our innermost needs are, and then finding ways to nourish through meditation and yoga.
Beautiful. I love what you're describing. It's definitely, you've got a nice way of articulating things which I kind of lack my vocabulary.
Oh, really? I feel like I've been fumbling over my words, so I'm glad to hear it's making sense.
Yeah, makes sense to me anyway.
Okay, cool.
What got you into yoga, Christopher? Where did you, was there a point that you found a teacher or something, or were you a bit over?
Oh, well, you know, really it was to impress a girl at
Really?
first, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
great.
I had a natural inclination to try yoga, and I had kind of like you described yourself. Your initial journey was like, yeah, I would go and try a few classes here and there, but then I met a girl who like was really into yoga, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm really into yoga too, you know, and I started going. And then I discovered Ashtanga yoga, which is a really strong practice, a 90-minute sequence that's the same sequence every time. And what I really was attracted to about that was that I found that I was able to get out of my head much easier when I knew what was coming next, you know? So it wasn't like the teacher was just doing a different sequence every time I showed up to a class. And it was very predictable, which I know that in my masculine qualities, like, I needed that. I needed that structure, that routine to be able to surrender and relax. And that was where I started to really feel the benefits. And I also felt and saw my body getting stronger and fitter and healthier through that practice, which is not something I'd recommend for a beginner, really, the Ashtanga sequence. But, after trying yoga for a few months, you might discover that you want something a little bit stronger. And Ashtanga, like I said, is always going to be the same, hopefully. I mean, some teachers will deviate a little bit, but for the most part, it's a set sequence. And that was what really got me inspired to take the practice home. And then from there, it just kept going. I just kept deciding to do more studies and trainings and, residencies at ashrams and going deeper and deeper into it. And there was a lot of resistance along the way. And I had to kind of, find the discipline within me that wanted those benefits, that was like, right, okay, I'm supposed to get up at 5 a.m. and go to this meditation, but man, I do not want to go to this meditation, and then I would go and then I'd come back and take a nap, and just like, it was as if I really wasn't there, but I was just going through the motions, but I pushed through it. And then after that, kind of enforcement period ended, I realized like, oh, I kind of want to meditate, like that's what I want to do now. But it's like, I didn't like being told what to do. But then I got around to the point where I saw that what I had been told to do was benefiting me. And then I started doing it myself.
So an element of discipline, but not too strong, but it definitely helped you kind of realize your own discipline, I suppose.
Yeah. And for me personally, man, it's like the accountability. Like when I was accountable to somebody else, I was more likely to be disciplined in my practice. And that's why, like, after I finished my teacher training, I committed to my teacher to do the same practice every single morning for 90 days straight. And I didn't miss a beat, and that was the best I've ever felt, was when I was doing that. And so it was a commitment that I had made, because I really respected her and I trusted in her and I trusted in the practice. And that's when I saw like big shifts happening. And since then, I'll be honest, like I haven't necessarily had somebody to commit to. So I've been a little bit lax, and I've become a victim to some of those really easy distractions that life presents us. And so discipline is a struggle for me, unless there is a little bit of structure imposed, so that I can push back against it just enough to find myself in the middle. It's a funny game I play with myself.
I totally resonate with that. I've been through stages where it's like, 4:30 every morning, an hour of meditation and 40 to 50 minutes of asana, and then it just gets a bit. At the moment, I'm back into doing 45 minutes of meditation and half an hour of asana, which is I'm happy with, but I still haven't. Like this morning, it was like the alarm went off at 5, and I was just like, nah, 5:45 type of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it does.
And it's like, we can get really motivated like that. We go to retreat and we're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to just go home and do that for 3 months. And then something happens, a festival comes up and we go to that, and then we just get thrown off our routine. And it happens. And it's like, it's up to us to be honest with ourselves. If we go around saying, oh no, I'm a meditator, I meditate, and you actually like haven't meditated in 2 weeks, and what's the point in that? Nobody's going to be fooled. So I really believe in authenticity around that. And that's why, like, I'm just this current stage of my life. I've got a baby and I would rather sleep than get up and meditate most days. Some days I wake up with a lot of energy and I'm just like, yeah, cool, let's just sit down on the cushion. And that's so good. And in that moment, I'm like, oh, I would love to do this every day. But then the next day rolls around and I sleep. So I just keep track of it, and that's what I encourage the students, is just notice the days when you do practice and how you feel afterwards. And then the days when you don't practice and how you feel. And often I know I'm just a lot more racy, and that's like, honestly, right now, I slept in this morning and then I got your call and I was like, all right, we're doing this. And I had planned to sit down and have a practice. And so I can feel that. I can feel the effects that I'm just like a little bit less, zen than than I imagined myself being for the day.
Yeah, but I think what's probably beautiful about that is that you understand where you're at, and you
Yeah.
know that you have some tools within you that can bring you to more of a state. So it doesn't, you might feel a bit racy, but you know that it's just another temporary state that you're experiencing.
Yeah, and it's all part of the practice too, because we need to be able to see the both sides, and we can't just hold on to the expectations of what we should be getting from a practice. And there's no, anytime I feel like, oh, I should be feeling something else, that's when I know that I'm actually like caught. And when I am able to accept, okay, yeah, I'm a bit ricey this morning, then that's actually the meditation practice working, and it's just in more of a covert kind of way.
Mm. Oh, I love it,
Does that
man.
make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally with you. And I'm totally, that's, yeah, you're describing how I experience yoga and my own personal practice as well. There's times where it's really working and I'm feeling it. And then there's other times it's more, when I get caught in a bit more suffering, it's normally, if I look at what I'm doing, I'm not meditating as much, and my practice isn't as strong. And then I'm like, okay, I just need to meditate more, or I just need to get back to my practice a bit to build that foundation.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Good chat,
Um,
man.
what's that? Sorry.
I said good chat, man. This is good.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm enjoying what's coming out.
Mm.
And so Yatra Australia, I thought you could briefly touch on your role there and what
Yeah,
the
let's close with that, I think,
yeah, that's a good
because
idea.
it is a really good practice to let people know about.
Mm.
And it's something my friend Ronnie's been running for over 12 years now. These are amazing retreats that just take people out into the bush for usually about 10 days. And it's a silent meditation, a silent meditative walking retreat. So we're walking through the bush in silence all day. And then in the evenings, we come back around the fire and dinner, and we have a chat. We connect with one another. And then there's usually a Dharma talk and then a group meditation at night. And it's a wonderful alternative to a 10-day sitting meditation retreat, where you're in one place the whole time. And this is, I don't know, I feel like it's a very relevant practice for a lot of people today. And a lot of people that come on these retreats have been doing, or also do a 10-day Vipassana retreat or something like that. And they've been doing it for decades. Some of them are strong Dharma practitioners. Some of them are just new and really want to have an experience connecting with the natural environment. And yeah, it's a beautiful blend of kind of deep ecology and meditation teachings, and also a bit of yoga in the mornings. And I've been involved with that for a few years now, helping organize these retreats, which are all run on the Buddhist principle of dana. So participants pay the base fee, which covers all the accommodation and the food and the catering expenses, and transportation and that sort of thing. But anybody facilitating or organizing the event actually gets paid through the generosity of those participants. So they give what they feel it's worth, and then we receive, and that's a very beautiful practice in and of itself, is to participate in that way and to be a part of that retreat experience for people, which just ends up being so rich. So yatra.org.au to find out. We're running between 5 and 8 per year. We just finished one in our first international yatra in New Zealand, but a lot of them are based throughout Australia. There's one out in Alice. We do a Tasmania one, and then a few on the East Coast as well.
Wow. Yeah, they really sound amazing. I'll definitely jump on one day. It just hasn't worked out for me as yet.
That's right. I forgot you haven't been on one yet.
No. Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was on one for 3 months when I lived with you and Ronnie, but
yeah, that's right. That's right. That was pretty much the answer.
Yeah. Well, so you just mentioned a few upcoming retreats on the Yatra, and I'll put the links after this talk. Do you have any of your own, like Yoga for Every Man? Is there any upcoming workshops or?
I mean, if you're based in Mackay or around here, I've just started up a 10-week program of Yoga for Every Man. I was very excited to see 9 guys sign up for that.
Great.
In this area where there's a strong, maybe a less healthy masculine environment, it was really exciting to see that many guys show up, and I'm so excited to have met them the other night and to continue on with this with them. So yeah, apart from that, I don't have anything on offer at the moment. We'll see. I've got a few ideas for later in the year and for 2021, but right now it's just focus on the baby and transitioning into this chapter of my life as best and as gracefully as I can. So trying not to overload my plate, but I seem to manage to do that a lot of the time anyway.
Well, it sounds great, brother. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the Freedom Experiment here. I've got a lot out of this conversation, and I am going to come up to Mackay. I'm keen to come up to see the reef before this is done. Maybe takes it over one day. I'll see. But I would love to come up and see you and the fam. So
yeah, please do.
Try and get up there this year, brother.
Cool. Oh well, I'll remind me to invite you to my wedding.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. All right, we'll talk about it after.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dave. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Love it.
Yeah. See you, brother.
See ya.
Okay, so that was Christopher David from Yoga for Every Man. Really interesting and inspiring guy, doing a lot of great things, introducing men to yoga. And yeah, I really loved having him on the show. So thanks for listening to the Freedom Experiment. If you like the video, like the page and share it on your Facebook, and let's keep building this audience up. So thank you. See ya.